So we'll open up the collision mesh, inspect it. We see that we've got call 0, 1, and 2. We don't have a 3, so that's no good. So what we'll do is we'll open that up. This is like the easy of the easy. Well, that maybe what we'll do is we'll do one easy one like this. One destructible, and then a somewhat complicated one that hopefully it can do in a reasonable amount of time, or at least give you the idea. Okay, so I gotta go find that bastard. What's the directory on that? Static objects, Ukraine, rural details. Okay. Details table. There she is. All right. Got him in there. Bring in the collision mesh as well. Cream. Rural details. There. Okay. So now I got those. First thing I'll do is grab my materials off the bat. So first I got those. Now in here we've got our collision mesh group here, and then our regular mesh, right? What I'll do is I'll just start off by getting this connected to a little happy place. There we go. And then the rest of that garbage can go away. I'm gonna set this up in range. Okay, so what I'll generally do is take the call to and then hide everything else. Selected. There we are. And then what we'll do is we'll model around it, right? And this one's, like I said, super simple. I'm just going to make a box over here. That'll work. Switch that over to an editable mesh. When you export, make sure it's editable mesh and make sure it's triangulated. When you first create your object, it won't have the right materials sometimes, and it won't have the appropriate triangulation. So I'll show you how to do that too. I want to make that bigger. Let's see what the fuck I'm doing. Get that out of the way. We don't need it right now. If you're off like a count here, it's really not going to be mattering too much because it does give a little buffer when it goes to nav mesh around it, but you want it pretty close, right? So that's probably close enough. Bring the deck down. Whoops, come on. There you go. The other direction. For the bottom, you don't want it dead nuts. Sometimes you want it to intersect the ground a little bit, so bring it down just a hair longer. And the same goes for on floors and stuff like that. You want it to kind of intersect another collision 3 so that you don't risk having it nav mesh under the object, but you don't want to go too far, you know. So now I'm just adjusting the walls in. And once you've formed your object, like this could be a round object and it would be a little trickier because now you've got a, but you would start with a cylinder if it was something cylindrical, right? So, you know, whatever way you pull it, you do it. So there we go. And Alt X, you can kind of take a look and see how close you are with the box. That's good enough for that. Anyway, now what you'll do is you'll grab, whoops, or you'll highlight all the polygons, make sure you got poly selected. You're gonna go to editable poly by right click, select polygons again, come down here and do edit triangulation, retriangulate, and then right click, editable patch. That'll collapse it with those polygons that way, and then back to editable mesh before export. So now if you go into views and your viewport settings and go to edge faces, you should see that it's all triangles, which it is. And let's turn that up there. So now we check our materials on it. Go ahead and do that. And it's saying it is multiple materials once you've changed it like that. So what I'm going to do is, because it's a call 3, it really doesn't matter what the material is as long as it's a valid material. I just set ID 1. So then once we've done that, you can unhide everything. And we've got 2 materials according to this. But what I'll do is I'll go back to the con file and the original call mesh. So I'm seeing there's only 1 material applied for the collisions on all this wood, right? And I'll double check that versus the original so we don't lose our material slots. Like if this had more materials, then something was wrong and I want to match it to that, right? Because that's affected especially on the call 0 for your decal effects. And then of course, if there's say it's a building and it has ramps and stairs and it's got the special stair material on it so that you have grip for your soldiers to walk up and stuff, it's critical that these materials are right. So in this case, it's all the same material. So all we need to do, knowing that it's 1 material, is we go back in here. We pick the very first one because we selected ID 1. And in the beginning of this shader assignment, we're going to type in whatever you want. You could put a number for that matter, but put in something, wood, and then the you hold that shift button, and there's the pipe delimiter key, which is just below your backspace. You put 2 of those in, okay? That'll assign your collision, right? You might already know that. I don't know. I'm just going through it like how I do it. So now we need to get that attached to our collision here. That's going to go right on the non-vis, and then I'm going to rename that to call 3. There we go. And then I'm going to highlight everything. Make sure I've assigned the materials. There we go. And then I'm going to go to export. And what I generally do is make a, static objects / call 3, like a call 3 folder, my work folder, so to speak, while I'm doing it. That'll get me the collision mesh that's necessary without having to alter all the rest of the model or worry about QVs or anything getting dicked up. So, so now I go back to objects, static objects, call 3, table, and we should have a nice valid call 3 closed mesh, right? So like some of them I came across and there was no mesh on the bottom. It was just, that's not a closed mesh, right? Or you could have a bad thin triangles, or you could have unwelded vertices, or you could have intersections. We'll get to that, but this one is just in essence done. So now I'm just going to copy that collision mesh. Back to what was it, Ukraine? Shit. Yeah, Ukraine. Rural details. Table. It's trench, you fuck. Table. My mouse is really twitchy. There we go. Paste. Boom. There we go. Now we got it in there. So now in theory, you throw that into a test map. Like I have that nav mesh test map. That's what I use that for. I'll throw, and test them, make sure that they work, and then take a look at the log file after the fact to verify it didn't bitch about it or had an issue. And that's how I can, make them work. So that was one.